All right, I believe we are live. I've been waiting to make this video for a little bit. So today we're going to be talking about Section 8 Consulting, which is a company that I own, and the work that I do for people around the U.S. that are dealing with low-income housing, Section 8 housing, affordable housing, subsidized housing, rental assistance, and those of you that are homeless that are having your own fundamental issues with housing itself. This really comes down to housing help or housing assistance. And as many of you know, it's not that easy to get answers these days. I mean, you have a little bit out there on Google. A lot of it's outdated. You have options called the Housing Authority if they'll actually pick up the phone. And if they do pick up the phone, then what are they willing to talk to you about over the few minutes they give you? A lot of you are in emergency situations where you need housing fairly quickly. Maybe you've been evicted. Maybe you're going to be imminently put out of the apartment because you can no longer afford it. Or maybe you're living on the couch or living with parents that annoy you or living with your children that drive you wild. There's a lot of different reasons which somebody might need housing. So I think this morning we'll talk a little bit about what I offer and how that translates into clients and how it might be beneficial for you and how it may not be beneficial at all. So for a few introductions, I'm going to go over a little bit about my background. So my experience includes reading tens of thousands of pages of Housing Authority and Continuum of Care manuals covering everything from Section 8 applications, operations, policies, procedures, assessment tools, HMIS information and manuals, algorithmic data manuals, and every piece of HUD in housing legislation, which might also include state law, federal law, and local ordinances, and that would also be including other subsidies and subsidized properties, continuum of care, housing first, and that list is pretty wide. That also includes clients that may be dealing with HIV under programs like HOPWA, or clients that are dealing with domestic violence under VAWA. So it's quite extensive. It comprises of around 21 years. So let's go over some statistical data real quick. Outside of the years of experience and the vast amount of information, probably 1 million pages or more, I think over a career limit or line, there's been around 15,000 clients. I've served around 800 or 900 landlords with an average of 200 a year. These are both small landlords and landlords that own 40, 50, 60, and $80 million properties that may range from a few units all the way up to 500. The number of vouchers received are in direct contrast to the number of clients served, around 8,000. And prior to the pandemic, my success rate was around 93%. I would say right now it's bouncing between 87% and 91%. Times are extraordinary. You know, we look at what's going on and the sheer demand of what people need right now. And I can tell you that, we're dealing with a housing bubble, shortage of housing because of pricing, extreme rents. So landlords are now raising rents, and we're also looking at inflation where everything costs more, including gas. And of course, in the middle of a pandemic, which is in the middle of a war with another country like Russia. And so all these, it's like a storm of things happening, and they all seem to. So I'll talk a little bit about the options. But first, I'd like to apprise you of all the free options that are out there. And I always do so because I feel that most of you are grown. You know, you're intelligent people. You know how to find help when you need to get it. So beyond using Google and YouTube, there are not that many professionals on YouTube. There are lots of people that make videos but are not consultants, okay? They're giving tips and tricks, and that is what it is. I think there's only a handful of consultants that are actually any good. And beyond that, I want to talk about a little bit of the services we offer. So over time, we offer different durations and ways that you could call and email and casework. And it essentially helps the client educate, providing manuals, operations, procedures, helping them get through the system a lot quicker. I think fundamentally now I've learned over time, a course of time, how long it actually takes, and I only really just offer those options. To be clear, section8consulting.com does not offer packages. Okay, packages, that is a game and a hustle. Okay, This is not a package. You're buying segments of my time to perform casework, which may or may not yield a result. In other words, nobody except a thief and a liar would say they can guarantee you housing or guarantee you a voucher. Also, in consideration of that, that goes back to statistical data of how often I'm successful. Big portion of it is just declining silly cases and people that simply have no business in housing, and those that may not function properly or have a sound mind and may present badly as a person to work with. Um, Beyond that, I'd say that, sorry, I'm having to myself this morning. It's been an early day. But beyond that, I'd say that the services we do offer are in conjunctions of 1 month and 4 months. Now, let's be clear about the seasonality of this type of work. I would say summertime is the worst time. There's a lot of competition for this in lieu of all the other things going on currently. So I don't recommend less than 4 months of casework. So most of you have seen pricing and so on. I'm going to put that up real quick so you can look at it. You can visit our website as well as our booking software. 4 months. Now, for those of you that clearly everybody's on a fixed income and other issues, so I would say that we do offer payment plans. Payments are generally made by mail. Or you have the option to pay for all of it. And then, of course, you could pay for that through our booking software. Moving on from there, we have the 1 month, 30 days. Now, look, that's more appropriate for, spring, winter and spring when the housing market's calmer, okay? There's nothing I can potentially do for most of you within a month unless you have a separate issue outside of seeking housing. Like potentially if you're dealing with issues related to portability and moving and other separate incidents, okay? Beyond that, I just recently offered an hour of consulting time by phone. Just to be clear, nobody wants to sit on the phone for an hour. So we have to divide that in half. So if you book 1 hour of consulting with me, we're only going to speak for 30 minutes, and then I will move the appointment about a week forward. And then if you have new stuff that you'd like to discuss for another half hour, we'll do it that way, okay? When you factor in the cost over that period of time, I would say that it comes up to about 125 a week, okay? Now, am I working specifically for the client, the 80 hours a week, just one client? No, of course not. Let's be realistic. But I think it's also important that that payment at 125 a week divided by what I'm doing is still about a third of what a person at Taco Bell would be receiving, okay? So it's not like our company is enriching itself on the back of people that are on fixed incomes. It's just simply that is the cost for the time. Moving on from that, again, like I said, we do offer payment plans. The best thing is just to contact us. We'll work with people. However, we will no longer do payment plans that are outside of mail. In other words, it has to be a payment to our business. So let's talk about business credentials and what we are as a business so you can verify it. So a big part of receiving, and I see you guys are commenting, and I'm going to get to that. Just hang tight. A big part of being a business is making sure you have proper documentation to essentially prove your company's working in good faith with clients. So we are registered with the Secretary of State, and we do publish that information. We have a registry number. We also have our EIN, DBA, and licensing. Okay, so now for the other part, we're under two different contractual agreements. One which, if you book with us, you have to sign. Now that's not for the short 20-minute call that we offer. But Casework does require a 10-page contractual agreement. We do require a copy of your driver's license. We will never ask you for Social Security. That is to ensure that our business, as well as your state of mind, will not be involved in any situation where we'd be stealing somebody's identity or could be accused of that, okay? If the casework and application process with housing authorities does require a Social Security number and so on, that will be done without the merit of us being involved, okay? Certain parts of an application can be filled out without our intervention. Everybody knows their name, their phone number, their address, and their Social Security number. We don't need to see that part of the application to be successful in this process. How much do I actually help the client? Well, for most of you that are tossing, turning, watching thousands of videos and searching across the depths or the hallways of Google, I would say we handle roughly 97% of your case file. 3% of it does require your interaction. So let's talk about what that means in that interaction to work with clients. Two pet peeves that I have is if you're the type of person that has a phone that has a full voicemail and you never delete those, and we have no way to contact you, we'll terminate your case. Okay, I don't have time for that. People that like to use Google phone numbers, will terminate those cases as well. I don't have time to play cloak and dagger with clients. Just like we present our name, our face, our company, its credentials freely and openly, including my home address, we expect our clients to be as transparent as well. We're not going to deal with scammers out of China and Russia and all that drama. Okay. So, under federal policy, we must do KYC, know your customer. That requires your driver's license. You can't steal grandma's credit card and come book with us. I will terminate that as well. So, we're just to be clear. Beyond that, we need payment authorization, so there's never a question of whether or not the payment is authorized, and then we move forward. Now, let's talk about those free options. So, the first option I would say, in principle, you have would be calling your housing authority if they pick up the phone. The second would be calling a HUD specialist. You type in HUD specialist, you call those folks, they'll answer the phones. They are the feds, and they usually will answer a couple of minutes of your questions before they hang up. The other option for most of you familiar with is 211 and 311. These are not professional. These are just people that do their own Google search, connect you with a number, which may or may not work, and that's the end of it. There are not a lot of great resources, especially somebody that has the background I do to work with people and clients and actually get something done. And again, it goes back to results, 87 to 91% success rate. So let's be very honest. And most people know me by 10 years on YouTube, 600 videos plus, okay, 5 to 600. I don't sugarcoat shit. If you need to be in a magical world where there's rainbows and unicorns and people lie to you, it will never be delivered by my business or my company, okay? We have to face reality. This is a tough subject matter. Getting housing is tough. And the last thing I need to do is sit here and lie to my clients, oh, this will be easy. It's not. It's a perilous deal. It takes a while. It takes a long time. But it doesn't take 15 years. A lot of cases are successful. Think about this in principle. You've got 50 states. You got thousands of counties. There's lots of counties where there's virtually nobody applying, and there are vouchers there. That's not just that simple, okay? There's many, many other factors that go into this. But by the sheer numbers, there's an opportunity for most people to get a voucher. If you're willing to move or address portability and other issues, housing can be solved. Thing about it is, housing authority and its employees are the ones that don't quit a week later. I simply don't have the time to sit on the phone and answer every dilly-dally question you have. I do. Okay. Another thing I want to make very clear is we don't operate in the cloak of email. A lot of companies these days prefer you talk to a robot. Okay. When you book with us, you have my phone number, which you may call as so long as my office is open. I do screen calls, which means your calls will likely always go to a voicemail, and then I will return it. That's because, in principle, a lot of people around the nation believe that I'm a free hotline. I don't have any desire to sit on the phone 24 hours a day and answer questions for free. That's just too much work, and nobody really wants to do that. That's what 211's for. That's why those people are angry over there when you call them, because they're tired of answering the phone for free. So, just so we have that understanding. So yes, you call, answer whatever question you need, whatever operational matter you. If you cannot sleep, you're concerned, you're worried, whatever it may be regarding your case, I am crystal clear with contact. And you're dealing with me. You're not dealing with somebody I just hired off Craigslist and I'm paying a nickel an hour. I administrate all my own actual consulting work directly with the client under contractual agreement by virtue of the state of law of Texas. And I work with all 50 states. Federal programs cover all 50 states. I do not just work with two houses next to me, and I don't just work in my zip code or just in my county or just in the state of Texas. I have clients in all 50 states. To be clear about the representation for those states, New York represents roughly 40%, California represents 30%, and then there's a mixture beyond that. I think that Maryland is starting to come in around third, Florida number 4, and there's many, many other states, of course. All right, so we covered all that. Now, one thing I'd like to ask now that I've got a little crowd here is, now most of you have seen my earlier videos, I had gray hair. I went in and I had my hair dyed. Anybody like to comment whether I look younger or do I look older? This is my first attempt. And for those that don't know, I'm not 30. I'm actually 46. So y'all chime in if you want. I know that's an offbeat comment. So, all right, I'm going to address some comments here. There aren't that many, but I just wanted to address them. Mr. Good morning and welcome. Welcome to the channel again. Craig Electric. I like that name, my man. Yo, my brother, I need to get counseling. Average SSDI, average credit rating, Arcadia, Florida. Okay. Hey, guys, Florida's a tough state right now, man. So many retirees. It's a big housing issue over there, like California. Kay Briley, you have been very helpful to me. Been watching your videos. Well, H Kylie, we're glad to have you. I've made a lot. You know what? A lot of people don't realize is I've actually made more videos than HUD itself. I actually am the biggest publisher of videos across both YouTube and Google in relation to housing. So much so that over 100 websites copy me. Some of these websites are owned, their domains are owned in other nations, and they actually create websites, post all of my videos without ever asking me, and I suppose they're translating those in other languages. Another curiosity about our channel and what I do is it's not just a channel. We have a full website and other things, but most of you seem to find them by video. We get visited by HUD.gov. We've been visited by almost every state government agency there is. If I've managed to survive 21 years without a single investigation against me, my company, no liens, judgments, and holds, it says that I have a pretty successful reputation doing this. In addition to that, if the services and the quality of that service were bad, people would be in this live chat across all 600 videos, leaving horrendous comments and other things. And yes, I do have the ability to remove those. But one thing I don't have the ability to remove are likes and dislikes. There's no video that's ever existed in my channel that's been disliked more than 4 times. So if there's any haters on today, please go find a video and be number 7 so I can reset that record. We have verified reviews. Clearly, a company can buy those. One thing that's interesting about our reviews is when you see fake reviews, there are always these nice, beautiful, perfect little paragraph. That's how you know one of the first reasons a review's fake. If you read ours, you'll see so much neuroticism in the comments and reviews that we get in our company that you'll quickly arrive at the possibility that they're very much real. Some of them a little too real, but it is people's opinions, and I accept them both ways. I've never made a requirement or a company that anybody leave a 5-star. You leave whatever you want. One thing I want is for people to understand I don't live and breathe reviews. That's nonsense of the new generation. We'll continue to provide services regardless of comments. So, all right, moving on. One more time at a time. Comments and says, here in Pueblo, they're telling me they don't have emergency vouchers. Well, that may be a possibility. It may not. But I know one thing. The entire state is not going to be out of them, okay? And also, for most of you who don't know this, there's more than one way to get an emergency housing voucher. Let me tune you in on something you may not realize. Housing authorities, even the ones that have had a closed waiting list for 15 years, have vouchers. They're required by mandate to keep, in principle, 15% of those vouchers for other reasons. Now, they're not going to tell you that, ever. They keep them from all kinds of situations. Maybe those vouchers need to be for people that have been imported into the country, that are federal witnesses and other issues, natural disasters, emergency situations, and so on. So they do have vouchers, even on a closed waiting list. They're preferential, and sometimes they're even political vouchers almost. I know that sounds a little bit out there, but I can assure you, as the days long, they always have vouchers or even closing waiting lists. It's understanding how to access what they call, and I encourage you to look this up, special use voucher. Another thing I like to tell you is, a lot of you guys are fixated on there's only one kind of housing and only one place to get it. That is not true. Vouchers may be that, but what it's connected to, there is a wide variety. So let's talk about those real quick to help you better understand. So like tax law, HUD and Title 24, a federal regulation, has subtitles. Subsection Section 8, subsection 202, subsection 504, and so on. Each one of those subsections are funding for a specific type of funding for a specific type of voucher. As an example, I'll just show you real quick. I'm going to use a piece of paper and then kind of explain to you in principle what these things are. Does this mean you can go over to the housing authority, open the door? Excuse me, may I get a menu of vouchers? No. It means you may apply, and if your situation meets the standard of the particular funding, like funding from Section 811, Section 202, and so on, they will attach it to your voucher. So this little white voucher is just a voucher. Now, if you have HIV and or AIDS and you apply at the housing authority, they may pull funding and add a string to your voucher, and it becomes HOPA funding for your voucher. If you're a senior with a disability, you may take a Section 202 funding and attach that string, and your voucher magically turns into 202. If you are a person age 18 to 61, okay, you may attach a string that may say being funded by subsection 811. This is why when you walk into a housing authority, excuse me, I'd like to apply for Section 8. No. You apply, and they will figure out what string of funding will be attached. So the reality is there's a variety of fundings, things that could fund your voucher. Now, what happens if you happen to be a veteran? It'd be HUD-VASH. So what happens when a client has meets a bunch of these? He's a veteran, so now he's got a HUD-VASH string. He's got HIV or AIDS, so we attach that string. He's a domestic violence victim, we have VAWA. And then we have other issues like he may be homeless, so they have funding for that under several different programs like Housing First. And so the more strings attached to that voucher means more ways for them to pull funding. And when you do that, some of those strings have an extraordinarily short list. Now, let me tell you this, guys. Housing and vouchers and getting it is not a fair game. Fundamentally, when all this was created way back, it wasn't. It was about as racial bias and bigoted as you could get it. Okay, I don't give a damn it's federally a program or not. This country certainly has its issues, and so do the people that administer these programs. It's not as prevalent as bad as it used to be. In other words, the system in principle, in my opinion, is either broken or rigged. If you're going to play the game, you better play to win. And the only way to win the game is to have the same policy, procedures, and operational manuals as the housing authority. If you do not understand, in principle, the rules in which you're playing by, and you're just joining the game, it means you're the fool. Sitting down with a nickel ink pen from the dollar store, telling your story, sympathy story, or empathy story, in order to get a voucher will not cut it. You have to have a factually based case based on preferences. Part of what I do for clients is help you figure out how many of these preferences we can stack on there. So if we have a cake and I'm icing it, you go in and do it yourself. You don't even have icing. You're just on a hope and a wish 15-year wait. Each layer we add to that propels you higher and higher and higher on that list. And in some cases can produce vouchers fairly quickly. In one example, 6 days. Now, I'm not suggesting that's going to happen in Los Angeles or in Manhattan, but there are ways. Let me give you another primary example. If you're a lawyer and you're in court and you're representing a client that committed murder, would you not want an attorney that understood every loophole in the law? So it's not about lying. It's not about cheating the system. And unfortunately, if they created a bunch of back doors that I'm smart enough to understand and walk through, then it means that my client's going to walk through it and get something quicker than the other person. All right. Nobody can blame me for that. So this is not a clever deception. It just means I'm highly skilled at interpreting their operations, manuals, procedures, and policies in such a way that may grant or may not grant vouchers quicker than a person walking in their flip-flops, hoping and wishing that their sad story is going to get them a voucher. Okay. You need everything you can get in this system. You're competing with everybody. So then I'm going to address issues that are racially motivated and extremists. This is not an issue of whether or not Hispanic people or Black people or those people having a bunch of children. I'm a Cajun in our family. On my grandmother's side, there were 21 children. On my grandfather's side, there were 18. Okay? Why does the day is long? They do not grant vouchers based on somebody's color and how many children they have. That is an old way of thinking, and it's ridiculous. Okay, so for those of you that are having those thoughts, I will put your ass out my channel and I will terminate your case. And I deal with at least one racist every week. I deal with one bigot every week, sometimes two. And I can tell you, if you come to me with those kind of attitudes or those concepts on the phone, I will terminate your ass in a heartbeat. Okay, I don't have time for it. Housing is a serious issue. And if they didn't teach you, and they give you a box of Crayolas in kindergarten and teach you that you can't color a picture without all the colors, then apparently your parents did a bad job. Okay. All right, moving on from that. Mr. Gray shows wisdom and intelligence, brother. Joe Fur goes on to comment and say, I've been approved for RRH over a year and have found housing. My lease is up and zero. Could not get into a shelter without a notice to quit. My landlord would get, so I'm stuck. Okay, so you've got, so for those of you who don't know, Housing First offers two types of vouchers. And so let me explain that so everybody else can tune in. The Housing Authority is not the only place that issues vouchers. You guys only think it is. You actually have a whole nother system out there that's federally funded. It's called Continuum of Care. Take a moment to look it up. Continuum of Care, Housing First, Coordinated Entry. All right? Type of any three of those words together or separately. That system has the ability to issue an emergency housing voucher. We all know what that is. It also can produce a PSH, permanent supportive housing. It may also, as a third thing, produce rapid rehousing, better known as RRH. Rapid rehousing, PSH, and EHBs can be gotten in anywhere from 30 to 60 days if you've got the right kind of case. But the SPDAT, they assess you with, they enter that assessment, how you answer, and it points into a system called HMIS, which is a Homeless Information Management System. It is an algorithm that doesn't see colors and children. What it sees is points. The more you have, the more it gobbles up. If it gobbles up enough points, you get a voucher. You understand? It does not operate like the Housing Authority. Beyond that, there's a third tier of housing out there available to most of you, and that is called subsidy, or LITCH, LITCH. That means the landlord has allocated roughly 30 or 40% of all his units to those that hold the voucher or those that are low income. It does not require a voucher. Okay, you go there, you apply. If your income is very low, extreme low income, you may apply and they may grant the unit. Now they're processing your application through the back door of the Housing Authority because they're pooling funds. You see? Now the thing about that is once you get into subsidy housing, the money's attached to the unit. When you move in, you're being subsidized. When you move out, the subsidy stays with the apartment and the next applicant that applies may get that housing. Subsidies do not have portability. You may not take that from New York to Florida. However, if you're clever and you know what I know, you could request that you convert your subsidy over to a housing choice voucher, which is also called a mainstream voucher, which is just a voucher. And that voucher can be turned into many different things, including Section 811, Section 202, Section 504, BAWA, HOPA, and so on. Oh, y'all got me on a good tear today. I'm going to go back to some questions here. In my candy, good to see you again. Hey, Jay, how's it going? It's going good. So a little injection of my personal life again, and we'll move on to some more questions. I don't know where you guys are staying right now, but I got to tell you, it's hotter than hell in Texas. You know, we're approaching 103. For those of you from Dallas up to California and through Arizona, I hear you guys are going to be hitting 115. I feel bad for you. I bought a generator. For those of you who don't know, we're having power grid problems throughout the U.S. In other words, our old electrical system, power grid from the 60s is starting to fail. There's too many people, a lot of air conditioning. And for those who don't have a generator, you might find it a bit insufferable when they start having rolling blackouts. Okay? Sucks, but that's reality. All right, moving on to the next comment. One more time says, can a person fill out one application for all programs? No. And if you go on Google, you'll see that you have many people that are advertising. You'll see the words A and D ad. And those people are from lots of wonderful nations, including Russia and China, and they make a living scamming people. That's what it is. Come on through, and if you just go get them a gift card at the CVS, get them a few thousand gift cards at the CVS. Shh, don't tell nobody. And you mail those to Rwanda, Russia, or China. They'll happily put your name on every housing authority in America. No such thing exists. You're just paying for somebody to get drunk somewhere in a bar in Russia, and you will never see your little gift cards again. Stop that nonsense. Google does not sort that out. So, look, if it was that easy, then I would be on Google and doing a one application for every county in America. If they ever do that, my job is over. So it is what it is. All right, BB, hello, how you doing? One more time says, what if a person had a voucher but lost it and never had a hearing? Appeals are good within usually 180 days to 1 year. If your appeal time is passed after those periods, then you would have to start the process again, okay? And it would depend how close to that year you would have been. Anyways, hello, chat. What's up, Jay? Hello. Anyways, been a minute since I've seen you on the channel. Today, we're just rattling on about services. So let's go back to services and concepts with this. As a company, we represent clients through the summertime till about September, October. And I recommend generally for most of you that are trying to get housing for no less than 4 months. No housing. There's no way in 20 working days across a 30-day period would you be able to get a voucher that quick. So I don't recommend 1 month of casework. My success rate's between 87% and 91%. When it was not the pandemic and the pandemic leaves, I'll likely go up to 91%. So let's address that percentage where we have a loss rate of anywhere from 10% to 13%. Let's be very clear. A lot of my clients do suffer from mental illness, everything from bipolar, schizophrenia, paranoia, and other issues. If y'all don't think these clients are not difficult and hard to deal with, they are. And that's why. When a person's having a schizophrenic moment and want housing, you think that they present very normally. They're in the process. I also deal with soccer moms and soccer dads that come out of suburban living, and now they've lost their job and their money. They want housing, so they're clearly delusional. They think that they can drive through like Starbucks and get them a voucher. Then they can go over there and they're just going to print a voucher. So sometimes I get delusional clients as well. A big part of my job is managing expectations, trying to tell my clients that it's over a course of times and it's a numbers game, and we're not always successful. That's the reality of what happens. I try to turn down the bad cases. I'm probably one of the very few of any consultants that actually accept people that have mental health problems, and that represents a good 40% or more of my clients. I don't mind people that have mental health problems and other physical issues that may present badly to most consultants. I take them because who the hell else is going to help these folks? You see? So I have patients. I have clients that have sleeping problems that require weird hours. I make all kinds of accommodations to help clients, so long as I'm treated with respect. I always tell people, if you're having one of those days where your mental issues are taking control, get some rest. Call me when you're doing it at your very best. So I'm willing to go the extra mile for my clients, where a lot of people just don't want to put up with what they believe is nonsense. All right, moving on from that, BB, thank you again for your information. Anyways, shout out for the mental illness. A lot of people have it. Let me tell you something, guys. Put it out there. I've got at least 3 members of my family that have mental illness. So what? I got a mom that's bipolar. There you go. It makes a little difference. We all have problems. For those problems, you've got spending problems, you got gambling problems, drinking problems, shopping problems. Americans have lots of problems. It doesn't just have to be mental. There's lots of things that can ruin your life without you being on Prozac, okay? So if anybody thinks they're greater than the next man, I would advise against that. All right, so beyond that, we're under a contractual agreement. As I mentioned, 10-page contractual agreement. We offer booking options. We offer payment options. Talk about the payment option real quick. So with the 4 months of consulting, we take about 40% down, and then we allow you to pay the next payment, which is 20% 30 days later, and then 20% 30 days after that. It makes it a little bit simpler for those of you on a fixed income. Over time, I believe that the prices that I'm offering, which come out to about 125 a week, is reasonable, considering the person working at the Taco Bell window pressing the taco picture on the register is making 3 times what I make a week, I think it's fair, right? And you also divide that down. I think that's $20 a day. How much did you really think you're going to get out of me? So I think you're getting a lot for what we're offering, unless somebody's offering better. And there are people that write books and make programs, and it's all bullshit. But you're welcome to buy it. Something else you can stick in the pile of bad buys. God's child, I can't hear you. Well, reset your internet connection would help you. Nobody else seems to be having that issue at the moment. Sometimes you just get a bad signal and you can't hear. So I think we covered a broad range of things that we can offer as a business and a company to you guys. We've offered payment options. I've been working on getting that pay in for PayPal. And, it's tough times. We're seeing the toughest times in our nation with all the different things going on. And so it's taken more effort and more time to get vouchers. One thing I always tell clients, it's never a matter of really whether you get a voucher. Are you willing to move? Would you consider a different zip code? Would you consider a different county? Not every part of the nation, not every part of your state has the same problems. You've got counties where there's virtually no homeless people and nobody needs a voucher. So the housing authority is sitting there playing farm bill all day with a drawer full of vouchers because nobody really needs to apply. So you go down that little county, you apply, you get a voucher. Oh, well, you know what? It looks like my job required. Now, there's lots of clever ways to port. If you got a voucher and you had a medical reason or you had a job reason, then by virtue of federal law, you might be able to compel them to move, take that voucher somewhere else despite the 12-month rule. That's something a consultant like me would know. If we're going to play a broken and rigged game, again, you might as well play to win. Now, again, doesn't require any cheating or deception. So it really just comes down to your morals and character. I always tell clients, if you're struggling with that, just ask for Jesus for forgiveness later. Ask Buddha to forgive you later for working the system. You are being worked over yourself. And anytime you want to tell me a housing authority says, hey, we've got a lottery, if that doesn't apply, it's a game, then I don't know what does. If you call a lottery, that's a game. You're playing a game, folks. You either play to win or you play to lose. I got lots of people. I made a video a couple of days back. A woman waited 28 years for a voucher. 29. I'll tell you a quick story about that. So here's an elected official on a Section 8 voucher list. An elected official, an alderman. She waits 10 years, okay? Now, looking at her age currently and looking at when she might have applied, she'd have been barely 18. Able-bodied, able to work, maybe still low income, and applying for a voucher. Received it 10 years, declined it. Waited another 20 years. But see, the way they present it on the news is as if it was a real 29-year wait. It wasn't a 29-year wait. She declined that voucher twice, and she had no preferences. I just want a voucher simply because I have a terrible job. And then it turns out she was actually an alderman. And it brings in a lot of other questions as to why is an elected official on a voucher list. I can understand the possibility of needing that in the beginning, but there's two sides to every story. That 29-year drama, she never had to wait that long. And if you apply and the problem you've got is no problem, you're going to wait 100 years. Moving on from that, James Smiley, good morning. How are you doing? Thank you, James, for loving our channel. We love you back. Shug Shields, how is independent contractors' income counted? Well, it's counted the same way as anything else. Once you figure your taxes and your negative assets, your tax write-offs, and then, so, if you're doing this properly, you have an EIN, your DBA, or maybe you're a sole proprietor and you're paying 30% tax, and then whatever you take payroll draws, that is your income. You need to make sure you distinguish that so the housing authority understands that whatever you're receiving, there should be a whole your gross income and then your actual income. Okay. In my County, Jay, with some housing authorities, waiting lists are closed. Let's talk about housing authority waiting list right now. Right now, this is a fair estimation, and of course, it changes all the time. Roughly 80%, 85% of all housing authorities in America are closed right now. Some of them are closed for legitimate purposes. Other ones are closed because they don't have enough staff. A lot of housing authorities, a lot of people just quit. Housing authority jobs are miserable jobs to start with, and a lot of people don't stay more than a few months because they're overworked and underpaid, is what it is. So, yes, but even if you only have 15% of the housing authorities open in the nation, it still means that's a hell of a lot of housing authorities, considering there are hundreds of counties. These counties have one housing authority per county across 50 states. You're talking about a lot of places. Okay, so don't give up your search on that alone. And there's lots of tiny counties that've got 5 or 10 vouchers sitting in a drawer with nobody applying. Where the work comes in is figuring out where the hell they are. I mean, you're talking about thousands of places. So people think I just open up some database and magically know where every housing authority is open. I don't. I'm like anybody else. I'm up at 3:30, 4:30 in the morning, hammering away trying to figure out where the hell the vouchers are and which housing authorities. Once I establish I have a housing authority, do they have funding for the specific reasons we need them to have funding? A lot of you guys apply for a voucher at a housing authority thinking it's for everybody. It's not. If February is homeless month and they receive $3 million to only give vouchers to homeless, they're not going to tell you that. They're just going to say, under federal law, they're required to say the list is open. But what you don't know is it may be for a specific subgroup of people, you know? And so I have to sort that out. Now, you guys, a lot of you get rejected. Oh, they didn't take it because I didn't have a specific reason. Well, that's because you didn't know. You didn't do an open state and federal request to find out. So you see all the different steps I have to go through in order to first determine they're open. Do they have vouchers? For what purposes are they going to issue the vouchers? What would be the most effective preferences to build into that? How long would this could potentially take? And would it be a fabulous waste of time even approaching them? And then we need to multiply those numbers by multiple counties across multiple states to see which one we can get to yield and cut a voucher. If we get that voucher, does the county or area we're wanting to live in, can it support the housing? Is there houses to rent, or is it already overflowed? So many variables, and that's not including all the information that you would want to know about policies, procedures, and other things that can be pitfalls in the system. Not every voucher is created equally. Some are worth more, some are worth less. Some of you should be upgrading your vouchers with accommodations. Others should be trying to take that voucher and convert it to a different type of voucher because your situation's changed. If you apply in 1962 for a voucher when you were making a nickel an hour and you've not changed that application to current, it means that you've missed out on 1,000 different preferences you could have already given you a voucher. But when you continually say, Jane Doe, okay, I'm okay, nothing's changed since the last 80 years, then you'll continue to be no preference to them. In other words, as more people enter the system, your name on the list, a new person enters, it's going to keep pushing you down. That's a lot of the reasons why housing authorities no longer issue numbers, or if they do it, they do group numbers. In other words, they'll tell you, oh, you're number 50, Sally, you're number 56 on the list. But what they didn't tell you is they grouped 1,000 people under the number 56, and then they'll do a mini lottery inside of that to figure out of the 1,000 people who will be pressed up. So as new people enter, you've been on there for 80 years on that list, right? This is an exaggeration. So you've been there 80 years, gets in there, you keep dropping. That's why they don't want to give you. If you've got a lot of preferences, you're like a bobber when you go fishing. You're going to continue to float to the top. All right. So you have to deploy a great number of processes to fundamentally change the game. And again, if HUD is designing and building legislation, policies and rules for housing authorities, letting places like Nana and McKay, which will underwrite all the policies and procedures for some of the greater and bigger states, then it's my job to go in there and find the holes, the loopholes, to shoot holes in them. If I know that a subsection Article 2 in there, and I'm making that up clearly, but if I know that's going to alleviate and shoot my client much higher on the list than somebody else, then I have legally found the way to do so. Same thing any good licensed attorney might do if he was at a client that committed murder. That's the difference. If you're going to play the game, then you need to be really good at this. This is not a game of putting your name, your number, your social security number, and having a low income. Let's talk about reasonable expectation of age and income. Oh well, my name is Bob. I'm disabled and I'm 82. Well, so is 99% of the list. So let me manage the expectation. A lot of you guys think that that's a smoking gun. Oh my God, I'm 183 years old and I've got a disability. My man, let me tell you something. Nearly everybody gets on the list is a senior and disabled. That only means you're in a big fat pool of already waiting forever. It don't mean jack. Now, if you're a senior, disabled, a veteran, a homeless person, your wife just slapped you, you're extreme low income, and we keep stacking those preferences, then you become important. That's when you start floating to that 1 to 3%. And again, those are just examples because every housing authority has a different set of preferences they may consider, and those may change or evolve over time because they do have a master guidance or a manual or procedures they get from HUD, and they modify that to match the local economy and its demographics to have to see how that town might be best served. So there's not a master manual. So you wonder, well, Jay, how do you deal with hundreds, if not thousands, of counties and housing authority? It's simple. You keep about 4 terabyte database, and you got to keep going through this shit every time. And then when we go and elect a new president, it all changes again. And then when we get a new director of HUD, it all changes again. So my job's, well, it's not, I'm not a doctor, but it's a lot like a doctor. Every time a new pill comes out, you've got to learn it. And so it keeps changing. When every time a new year starts, when you've got funding, learn again. So there's this big, black, deep world, Section 8, vouchers, housing. And, you know, I've given y'all about 0.00003 of what I've learned over 21 years. You know, there's so much to be considered. But if I had to step back from all this nonsense, step all the way back, knowing everything that I've gotten, and you have that aha moment. The aha is this. This is a game, and you're going to have some pretty compelling reasons to get housing. And if you're going to have those reasons, you need to know what I know. And I'm not going to start selling courses and outlets and write little books. That bullshit isn't going to do anything for anybody, okay? I'll give you an interesting story. There's a guy that calls himself Section 8. He sells little CDs, 9 tips and tricks to getting a voucher. He recommends bringing a soda pop and a pizza to the housing authority. That's a good way to get yourself thrown out the building and then have them put you on the paddy wagon and think you're crazy, okay? That's not going to get you a voucher. Vouchers are not based on your hard luck story, how many children you got, and all that stuff. What it's based on is you need to match the plot and the course of the specific things they're looking for. I always tell clients, if you're not legally blind on a Monday, you better go talk to your doctor, and when I see you next, you better be legally blind. If we know they're kicking out vouchers for that, then that's what you got to do. Now, your moral and ethical decision, that's in your own hands. That doesn't do it with me. Take a swig of this drink, and then we can close up the video. All right, so it's like anything else. You get part of a competition, and they tell you these are the requirements. Now you got 2 options. You can tell yourself, well, I'm not a good enough athlete to join this competition. Or you can take a look at that stuff, and then you go home, and then you figure out how the hell to work out good enough to get to the part where you can actually become part of the competition. Housing authority works the same way. If we know the rules in which you've got to play by and the rules in which they've got to play by, and if you don't have the problem today, then you better damn well have it by the end of the week or the end of the month. So it's almost like reverse engineering, understanding this. It's not always a magic bullet, and it isn't always successful. But I got to tell you, man, after about 7,000 or 8,000 cases, I'd say I'm pretty good. I'm pretty damn good. In fact, I'd say that there's no close second to me as far as consultants. There are none. I've been published more than anybody else out there by light years. It would take somebody an infinite possible to catch up with me. All right, guys, I've enjoyed talking with you. And I think in our next video, we're going to do a little bit more education, and I want to address seniors and disabled next time. It's a subject matter that never gets tired, because they are the folks that most desperately need this. I'm hoping to address a little bit more of that for you guys. So I'm going to take care of a few comments here real quick, and then we're going to go. MY Candy J had some housing authorities send me. Oh, goodness, there's a lot of comments. Apparently, I missed a bunch, so I'm going to try to catch up. Thank you again. You're handsome. I thank you for that. One time says that I'm handsome. Hope again. I dyed my hair for those that didn't recognize that. It used to be gray. MY Candy J, some housing authorities don't send client letters after they apply either. That is true. They do get to choose. Let me tell you something. A clever way to address the receipt of services between a housing authority and making an accommodation. You're entitled to receive mail, email, phone call, or text by your request. That is the easiest of all the accommodations. One day I'm going to build out an accommodation list, but I have a feeling if I do that, then you guys are going to look at that like a menu at the steakhouse, at the shrimp house, and you're going to be calling me saying, "Hey, Jay, so I'd like option number 4, number 8, and number 7." And so I don't know if I really want to get that storm started with y'all. Tanya and Todd, is that considered retaliation to slap a non-renewal of a lease on someone because the tenant asked for repairs for the apartment to pass inspection? Well, yeah, the process of non-renewal is actually was built. The whole purpose of non-renewals is to give the landlord a reason to get rid of somebody if it doesn't work out. If you can prove fundamentally that that they have harassed or discriminated against you, then there could be an issue. But who would really want to live there once you kick that hornet's nest? But yes, if you can prove your case, then yes. But again, just like a business, and that is a business. When you rent from somebody, that is a business. And in most states, they have the right to refuse business. And what we call right to refuse business in terms of housing would be what you just suggested. And that would be a non-renewal. That's the only opportunity a landlord can legally eject a tenant that they may believe be problematic. Since they've already accepted you to begin with, and it's hard to prove things like discrimination and other issues, it just goes to them. So BB says, mine is up. Thank you. All right. It's been a pleasure, guys. I look forward to talking to y'all again, and y'all enjoy your week. Okay. Bye-bye.